It is.
All right, we're live.
Welcome to the WeTaku Anime Review Podcast. I'm your host, Jovan. My specialty is shonen and all things, I guess we'd call it BS. And with me are my three hosts. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Thomas. I'm Thomas, and I am. I specialize in psychological, and this was my pick. This one.
I'm Steven, and I'm a fan of things such as Bacano because that's a strange thing to put a genre to.
All right, and I'm Allan. I also like psychological anime.
Oh, in which case, I'm going to claim romance too. Screw it. Nobody told me you guys both went full psychological here. All right, fine. I am shonen and romance god, thank you. Worship me as you choose. My shrine will be huge. Wonder what I've been watching on my own time. Anywho, so this week's review of the Star on Thomas's Christmas Tree was Paranoia Agent. Paranoia Agent is a show about... Well, here's a synopsis from my anime list, shall we? An elementary school kid dubbed with the title Shonen Bat has been going around attacking people with his bent golden bat. Now, two detectives are investigating so they can stop this kid from making any more attacks, but they'll find out soon enough that this case is more than they expected. Now, this is maybe the worst description of the show I've ever seen, but it keeps away all spoilers, so we're keeping it that way. This show is made by Madhouse Studios, who you guys know, I'm sure, have made many good things, most recently of which, One Punch Man. But this is not one of those, in my opinion. So, nope. I don't need to hear any other opinions. You guys can just stop the... So, we're actually introducing a new segment to the show for the spoiler-free section, in that we have 30 seconds to give each of our scores and explain them, because all of our feedback so far, you guys have wanted us to skip basically the spoiler-free section, just focus on our spoiler discussion. So this is basically how we're doing it. 30 seconds. Allan, just tell me when to start.
Yep. Hold on. My incompetence is showing. All right.
Oh no.
And go.
All right. So, because I thought that the story was extremely weak, from beginning where every episode felt like it slogged on, to the middle where it kind of lost track of where it was going, to the end where it lost track of everything and ended in a spectacular failure horribly and did not please me in any way, shape, and or form, I have to give the story a 5. How much time do I have left?
You have 8, 9, or what?
Well,
6, 5,
Story's
4.
a 5. Story's a 5. That's it. That's good. I'll just take the extra time.
We'll just
All right.
Oh
well,
man, we need a buzzer. All right.
Oh, it'll buzz. It'll buzz for
perfect.
everyone else except for you guys.
That's really exciting. All right, you can be our cutoff. Thomas?
So
Hold on.
I actually.
Oh now.
Oh my.
So I really liked the show. I love the art style, I love the director, and I love the sound. I think the sound added a lot to it, and I also
It's just
really
story.
liked the story, except for the last 2 episodes. Oh, just the story. So I thought it was fine, except for the last 2 episodes where it kind of tapered off and lost its way. But I thought overall it was pretty decent, so I gave it a 7.
All right.
Oh
Oh god, it's gonna buzz unless I stop it.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Okay, I stopped it. All right, Steven, you ready?
Zero.
Yeah.
And go.
So I realized it was episodic and it was meant to be that way, but I could not ever follow what was going on. Most of the episodes felt like filler to me, and there were definitely some that were, which we'll get into. And again, the last few episodes were like, ugh. And I mostly agree with Javon on this one, except I strongly disliked it, did not think it was great, and I give it a 3.
All right. Well, I actually have no idea what to say. Well, for the most part, I'd say that I liked it, but for very weird reasons I'll get into in the spoiler section. But most of the episodes were episodic, but I felt like they added to the entire experience, except for the last 2 episodes, which were weird. So I gave story an 8 because that was the main focus of this anime rather than characters. as the others we've reviewed. Exactly 30. Holy shit.
Allan, nobody's on the camera.
Nobody's on the camera? What?
We have sound, we don't have video.
Oh. What?
Has this always been like this?
Nope, okay, fixed. It's fixed.
What?
Okay.
Oh. What?
Like, did it just happen, or?
It just fixed.
Okay.
Alright.
Alright,
Oh.
well, we're good.
Those may have been dropped
Technical
frames. Technical issues stemming from my laptop being shitty.
It's fine, nobody in the VOD know that it happened. So,
Everything's fine.
everything's fine. Moving on.
Thanks, Deja.
Alright.
Time for characters. Allan, tell me one.
Alright. And go.
Alright, the characters were where the show shined, but I say that word very loosely. Everyone here knows I have a weakness for good characters, and I will not say that these were those in any way. I found it impossible to really care for or like any of the characters in the show. However, their reactions to certain events were fairly realistic, for the most part. And, I don't know, certain character lines stood out to me as really intriguing and the only reason I actually kept watching. However, all in all, they didn't really do much to make me want to keep watching the show, or I didn't care about any of them. Well, okay, fine, it's a 7.
It is indeed a 7. Okay. Go. Thomas.
I gave characters an 8 because I also enjoyed the characters. They weren't fantastic, but they did react logically, and I did kind of empathize, especially with the girl, the striped girl, and the older detective. I felt were the two shining characters.
Alright. Alright. And Steven, you ready?
What was your score, Thomas?
You said it at the beginning, it was 8.
8.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, well, yeah, so, I feel terrible now because I gave characters a 3. I did not
gave it a
feel like
4.
they I did give it a 4, that's correct. I bumped it up because there was one arc that was better, but overall, I didn't think the characters, I know it was episodic, so they didn't have time to get fleshed out, but I didn't even feel like they were even delved into as much as they should have been in their episodes,
And 30.
except with 1 or 2 exceptions. So I give it a 3 or a 4.
Alright.
Alright.
And for mine, so I thought the characters added to the overall story more than they actually were characters, but I still felt like they were at least logical. They weren't outstanding, but they did do their job, and some of them were better than others, so I gave it a 7. And yeah, that's it for me. Down to animation.
And yeah. That sums up this show pretty well. Anywho,
Oh,
to
no.
animation. For animation, I gave it a 6. Animation for me wasn't anything special, but it also was just kind of bad, I guess. I didn't like the art design. I didn't like the fact that the art design changed, it seemed. Even their eyes changed for certain scenes that weren't just regular. I didn't like much of anything in the art, actually. It just looked bad. I didn't like how any
And
of it
you're
looked,
done.
and I think Thomas might die. 6.
Okay. Are you ready, Allan?
And clock starts.
I gave art an 8. I loved it. I mean, I didn't love it. I thought it was really good. It fit his style. He has a style that seems very akin to Western style, and I did like it when it switched between art styles because I feel like it always had a purpose. So like it looks especially cartoony at certain points, or especially especially realistic with an anime, and
5
I
seconds.
thought that in itself was cool. So 8.
All right. Steven, you ready?
Yeah.
Go.
So I agree that the change in art style kind of added to it more than it did bother me. But my initial thought when I looked at it was like, wow, this is not pretty. But I understand it's a certain style, so I give it that. And there were some effects in certain scenes that I liked a lot, and their facial expressions were spot on at a lot of points. But overall, I just thought it was pretty average, so I gave it a 5.
All right, that's almost 30 seconds on the spot. And for me, I thought that the animation was actually pretty good in most places. It was very consistent. The art style's off-putting, which might be a problem for some people, because it's different and it doesn't have the shine of today's anime. But honestly, I thought it was pretty good. So I gave it a 6, just because some it might be a little off-putting.
All right.
And
I think my favorite thing here was, wow, I really did not like it. I give it a 6. You know, it was pretty okay, 6.
It was. I liked it. It's different. It's different, and that was the main thing. It's different from most anime right now.
Different does not always mean better. All right, Alan, whenever I'm ready for sound.
okay, 1 second. All right, whenever you're ready.
All right, Steven, stop whatever you're doing, dude. Cool.
All right, and go.
All right, sound. Actually pretty good. I liked the OP for what it was. I did not like the OP, but it made me feel disturbed, and I figured that was kind of the point. The ending theme also kind of did the same thing, though the opening had a much higher tendency to get stuck in your brain. For the rest of the soundtrack, it just kind of did what it had to. None of it's going to be like super memorable for me, but on the other hand, I feel like they fit the scenes pretty well. So
That's
7.5.
30. Okay. All right.
I gave it a 9 because I thought it fit perfectly into the anime. It wasn't great on its own, but to add to the atmosphere, it did its job excellently. The opening I loved. It got stuck in my head. I would sing it to myself in the shower. Like, it was awesome. And it was creepy, it was cutesy, and it was fantastic. And I loved it. 9.
That's 30. Wow, you guys are timing this pretty well.
I have an internal clock. I'm good.
Beavers?
Yeah. So I gave sound a 6 because I thought it was pretty average overall. However, it definitely fit. Like, a lot of the sounds fit really well. There were a lot of atmospheric sounds, even more than the OST, like the sound of rain or the sound of birds were like pretty common. And also I liked the opening. I liked it a lot. But yeah, I thought it was average overall. Nothing was special about the soundtrack. It didn't stand out to me, but it added to it. So 6.
Yeah. All right. Oh, whoops. I accidentally showed mine before I even went, but it's okay.
Spoiler warning.
So I also thought it wasn't really that special. The opening kind of stood out to me, but other than that, there wasn't really anything that really stood out. So I just gave it a flat 5, middle ground. And yeah, not much to say about it.
I definitely feel like the odd one out here now.
I feel like an odd one out too. It's okay.
All right.
We can all be
We
the
are
odd one
very
out.
polarized here.
We had feelings about this show. Nobody had the same feelings about this show, but we all had feelings about this show.
Which is a good.
So I'm gonna put up the spoiler section
up
up now. All right.
Let's do it.
All right. We're in spoilers.
So, are we spoilery? Cool.
Yes.
Quick summary of the show for anybody who didn't see it, but for some reason wants to stick around for the spoiler pod. A bunch of episodic episodes where a different person every week goes through a struggle in their life only to wish to disappear and then gets hit over the head with a metal baseball bat. This happens till episode 4, where some kid pretending, it fails, basically. Shonen Bat fails and gets taken down by some cop, only to be revealed to be some weeaboo who really likes RPGs. After taking an acid trip through this kid's delusions, you find out that he's not actually Shonen Bat, but some kid who is just imitating him. After that, the show just kind of goes really off rails until eventually Shonen bats a giant demon black sludge thing taking over the city, and they have to stop it through dog.
True dog. That
yeah.
dog. It was all for a dog. I just want to point that out. It was all for a dog.
Spoiler warning, everything was for dog.
So yeah, that was my personally my biggest problem with the story was that at the end you have this 2-episode arc at the last 2 episodes, and it's like building up as to like this big reveal, and the big reveal is actually just that this is all caused because this girl couldn't deal with her dog, like her killing her dog 10 years ago.
Mind you, a show that had no people with any like magic powers whatsoever suddenly has a girl whose imagination has led to a whoa, no, I'm not being stopped.
Then continue. Talk.
All right, I'm continuing. A girl who has no powers whatsoever, but apparently her losing her puppy and repressing it has led to her creating a small stuffed animal that can be ridden out of existence at one point, ? And then also black sludge little slugger thing.
So Satoshi Kon, he writes his stories always have a paranormal aspect to them. Think like a key thing where it starts like very normal, but then like it does blow up. Like if you ever get around to watching Perfect Blue or Paprika, like it starts with very normal ideas and then it gets crazy, and it's not ever possible in real life, but it still is possible within Satoshi Kon's worlds. I think it still makes sense.
But in key anime, what I'd say is the difference is that they have some illusion or build up to it. Whereas this, it just felt like they gave you a world that was very realistic, and then suddenly, what's going on? It didn't feel like there was any, like, allusion to, oh, there's something weird going on here. It was just like, oh, shit's going down.
I wouldn't say that they didn't allude to it at all, because, like we said in the synopsis, in the spoiler synopsis, there was the fake Shonen Bats like world, and then from there you started seeing like Shonen Bat sort of change.
Right.
And even in the very first episode, you see Muromi, the dog that she writes. She creates the stuffed animal dog because of she just keeps reminding the dog. It moves. It moves in the beginning, and it talks to her. I think in the second episode, but you see its eyes move around. It jumps out of her purse in the first episode, and like that had me floored. I was like, "What's going on?"
But there's a difference, though, because that can be easily chalked down to her delusions and paranoia, just the same way that everything that kept changing in Chono's life was because of her alter ego Maria, like ruining everything for her. Yeah. It doesn't mean that the dog actually was moving around and actually saying words out loud, except it did, apparently.
The whole show was, though. No one. Sorry, hold on, Steven. No one saw Shonen Bat. Shonen Bat was never real. Shonen Bat was always people's manifestations of their own mind. They didn't want to deal with something, so they did something and blamed it on this alternate being. So in the very end, like there's I think the detective's wife is like sitting in a room, and Shonen Bat's like, "Oh, you want to kill yourself?" And she's like, "No, I don't want to kill myself." And like he just starts destroying the house. That's not him. That's her. She's destroying the house. It's all within their own minds.
I would agree with you if not for the end of the show. That's exactly what I thought, until the end of the show where a legitimate black sludge actually does destroy all of Japan.
That's why I was raising my hand. They made me think that, oh, everything's just in their head. Like, okay, that makes sense. But then the city was actually destroyed. This stuff was really happening. So I was left very confused as to what was going on at all ever.
So if ever you see Paprika, so it's another movie he did. It also is like that. So spoilers, I guess. It's all dreams, and then in the end, the dreams become reality, and
Are we?
destroys Tokyo. So I mean, like, yeah, I did feel like it was a little too similar to Paprika at times, or maybe Paprika was too similar to this, but
I'm not entirely
we
sure that it
reviewing-
was actually destroyed, right? Because
No, it
like
actually
at
was
the
because
no, because at the end, like, at the very end, the entire city was rebuilt, or rather, it was
Yeah.
back to
2 years.
yeah. But 2
Years
years,
later-
you're gonna rebuild an entire city.
they did say
2 years.
no. There's actually a line that said the Tokyo reconstruction business or project has finished, and then
Yeah.
some businessman actually said the words, "Tokyo might be rebuilt, but our business isn't yet. We need to keep working." So,
Oh.
so no, it happened.
Yeah,
Well-
it happened.
I mean, still.
There were legitimate craters and skyscrapers and cars flipped by black gunk and people falling from black gunk. And if it weren't for that ending, I would have a very different review for the show, I think. Because it
Me
would
too.
have had a message and it would have had a point and it would... I really, really enjoyed episode 11, where an old dying woman literally looks the demon of death in the eye, tells him to sit down because she has a story to tell him, and then goes on to prove the strength of humanity. That was fantastic. And then...
Wait, this came out in 2004, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Japan. There's a tsunami in Japan in 2004.
And?
Okay. That doesn't really affect our review, does it?
I'm
can
saying
understand
if it-
that they're probably listening.
If it could be like sort of a reference to that, you know,
Yeah.
Okay.
I
because
follow.
like the black sludge could just be the tsunami.
Yeah.
They had an actual tsunami earlier in the show, though, and it had... Tsunamis don't leave craters in buildings.
They had
Yeah,
the typhoon,
they also
didn't
didn't.
they?
say
They didn't have a
that.
tsunami. They had a typhoon.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. You're right.
Yeah, it was a typhoon.
Tsunamis still don't leave craters in buildings, though. It's not how water
I mean,
works.
the buildings were just destroyed from what I remembered. Like I don't
No,
remember
there
like
were, there were legitimate craters.
Okay.
I remember this ending
Oh.
very clearly. I rewatched it just to make sure. I was furious.
Well,
because that's what I was
Right.
thinking earlier. But whatever.
okay. Well,
All right. Well, I went into the show. I'm gonna start giving my story review now, I guess. I went into the show not knowing what to expect at all. By the third episode, I was thinking, by the Devil Lips arc at least, I was thinking maybe it's like an exploration of various mental illnesses. That was the impression that I was getting. But as it continued going, and like I said, the stuff really began happening, and shonen that was a continuous thing, I just got really confused, and I stayed confused. The ending confused me more. Nothing was coherent.
I will agree that the last 2 episodes were a little bullshit.
I mean, we,
But I liked the ride. I
we
liked
both
it.
did say that the last 2 episodes were like very different. So
Do you guys want to talk about that really weird one? Okay, so on episode let me look at it. I think it's episode 7 where they go into
That was episode 5, if you're talking about the kid's delusions.
no. The 8, episode 8, where they
The
talk about
suicide pact?
suicide. Yes.
Yeah, the Suicide Pact episode.
yeah.
That had nothing to do with the show.
That
Oh.
I felt was very blatant spoiler. However, I enjoyed it, and I was talking to my roommate and watching it, and we were both like, that didn't have anything to do with the plot, but hey, it was pretty fun. Yeah.
I mean, it was a fun episode. It was like, the value of life matters. I guess that's set up for later. But, one thing. I'm not sure they were alive. At all.
No, they weren't, and I didn't like that trope, and they find out through the shadows.
Yeah.
I will say so. This is another showing that the art wasn't great, because when they removed the shadows, when I was looking at their feet, I was just like, they floating? Like, what? Like, it wasn't clear enough that it was just that they were missing shadows, and that was probably an art problem. However, I also didn't like that that's how they found out. It felt a little cliche, but in and of itself, I thought it was kind of cute, like the two men running away from the girl because they don't want the girl to commit suicide with them, and how they kept failing at suicide. It was kind of funny.
How,
I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
I did that.
girl
Go.
find that forum or whatever they were on? Like,
I mean,
It's
she was
just why-
suicidal too.
on there.
She was suicidal, just like they were, just
Yeah,
younger.
but like, I mean,
I feel like it's not that hidden away.
This was early 2000s, so like chat rooms were huge. Probably, I think they still are pretty big in Japan, and so like people just go on to them to.
yeah, but
Like chat rooms still exist, like Omegle, and that's okay. All right, this is fine, a new one. Not Omegle, but
And then episode 9, I also felt I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but like pulling us back on track to the show. Episode 9, I also didn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I felt like that was a lot of filler too. Like they were just telling various shonen bat stories.
None of which were
Nothing.
true.
I think
Yeah,
that was to emphasize how bad it had gotten, the epidemic. So the whole show's the paranoia of this being that so like how I prefer to look at it, I guess. I know you shouldn't really look at it like that, but so going through it, it's these people not wanting to deal with their own thing, and so they create this lie, and the lie gets out of hand, and the lie becomes this monster, and that's just showing that these 4 people that are totally irrelevant to anything else that ever happened are also terrified of Shonen Bat. They've never seen him, they've never heard about him in like their personal lives, but because of the media, they other people start thinking that they're seeing him because they don't want to deal with their own shit in their own lives. So
yeah.
Yeah, that.
Fair enough. And it's also important to note that this show is like a satire about the way media blows stuff out of proportion. Like that's definitely a theme in the show.
I definitely
Yeah.
Episode 9 though, it mostly just had me like, why is this guy punching food? Why is he in the ocean now? What is going on? When will this episode end?
That's true, but I would also like to point out one more problem I had with episode 9. Once more, I'd be completely okay with that interpretation had episodes 12 and 13 not happened. Unfortunately, because he actually manifests when people imagine him, all of what their stories said were true, and that's dumb. There's no better way to put it.
and it was really dumb.
if you take 12 and 13 out of the equation,
He killed a man who ate a lot of food, and then killed a kid who was throwing up calculations, and then no.
He was
He's
throwing up
actually
his own memories.
yes, and if he's the actual manifestation of all of their fears and imagination of him, then those things on some level happened.
Yeah.
And that's pretty not okay.
Yeah.
if you take 12 and 13 out of the equation, the rest is like its own thing, basically.
If you take 12 and 13 out of the equation, I would give this like I said, I'd give it a different score. I think all of our interpretations, like everything everyone's saying, makes amazing sense.
I think
Had they not kept going.
they just didn't know how to end it, and that's what kills me. Like I guess I kind of rated it blind to episode 12 and 13 because I just didn't want to deal with them. 'Cause they really are terrible.
I rated it poorly because I needed something to make it make sense. I needed something to give it coherence. And the opposite happened. It just made it worse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, my roommate, she was like, so this is going to explain everything, right? These last 2 episodes. I was like, yeah, probably. Well, let's find out. And I was like, what? Right.
When an ending is legitimately comparable to Evangelion, I think you need a new ending. But
I think the main difference between those two is Evangelion ran out of budget, and Shonen Bat ran out of ideas.
creative budget's a budget.
Creative budget.
I think they just needed an
alright,
exciting
ignore
way
Rich's-
to end it rather than like, oh shoot.
And we're back.
Okay. Well,
the white noise is back. Does that back on air?
yes.
Okay.
It's just I hadn't moved my mouse in a while, and so went into sleep.
Okay.
All right, we're back, folks. In the VOD, we are back, and ignore all technical difficulties. Moving on.
Anyway, I think they just wanted an exciting way to end it rather than ending it in a very mellow, sort of boring, drawn out way that really no one would enjoy at all.
Isn't that the sign of bad storytelling, though? If you just decide, you know what we should do? And, okay, I don't know what Thomas is doing, but you know what we should do? We should just end this in the most exciting way possible because,
Yes, and it
Which
turned out
involves-
terribly. So, I mean,
All right, fair.
at
I
least
do
in my
want to talk
opinion,
about
it
some
turned-
episodes that aren't the first one, I guess, or that aren't the last ones. If we want to talk about some other stuff that aren't the two fillers or the last ending thing, I would like to talk about the first 4 episodes because I think those were the most relevant to the plot until actually those were the most relevant to the plot. So,
Episode 5. Episode 5 was my favorite episode.
okay, I'd say
5?
episode 5 was still relevant but different.
Wait.
5 was weird.
Going
5.
backwards, we'll start at 5.
What's the one with the girl with the stripes? That's
Oh, 6. That's
Okay.
6.
So 6 was my favorite episode.
6 might have been the best episode of the show, actually.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What happened in
6?
6?
6 was the girl who. All right, Thomas, you want this?
So 6 is the two guys the detectives go and find the old lady, and they find out that the old lady doesn't really exist, and or something like that.
No, the old lady existed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
The old
Yeah.
man
talk
doesn't
to the well, I guess.
no, whatever. Anyway, so they, she talks about her great granddaughter or granddaughter and how she, just loved her father and like was this idol character to her and like he was perfect and she just wanted to, she would always side with him and he would always like give her what she wanted and she was like, oh, this is great. And then like one day she's just like on the computer, she's just like making a new thing for her dad and she sees this thing that wasn't quite yet dropped in the waste bin and she was like, oh, what's this? And she like clicks on it and it's like this little
Yeah.
picture and it's of her room and she's like, oh, weird. All right, anyway, and then like
for undressing.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's just it's a spy cam basically.
so it's a live stream of her and like she's
And it's revealed that her dad was one of the leaders of the pornographic ring from earlier in the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
And that actually everything is awful.
To be fair, you did not have to get to that point to know that because he had the whole daddy fetish going
Yeah.
real strong,
Mhm.
and she
Way
did
too
that a
strong.
lot.
But
Yeah,
I think
no.
the big thing was connecting her father to being him because you don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that it's him.
And then afterwards, it's actually revealed that she wasn't the old lady's granddaughter. This is just a completely
Yeah.
unrelated story that had parallels. But
That was the case. I just couldn't remember.
also, yeah, so then when she's about to commit suicide, it's at the exact same time that the creator of the dog, the creator of Moromi, what's her name? Her name
Yukiko?
is
Sagi.
Soggy, yeah. Soggy's being investigated, at least at the exact same time that this girl's about to commit suicide to spite her father, basically, for wanting to have sex with her. And at the exact same time, they're both struck by Shonen Bat and just knocked over, though Shonen Bat's invisible to everybody around them.
Mhm.
And that's the first time where I guess you get to see peaks of what Shonen Bat actually is, ignoring episodes 12 and 13. What Shonen Bat actually is and how he works for people. Because in all honesty, they just kind of hurt themselves or just knock themselves over, hit their head against something.
Yeah.
But
I really
To
like
them.
that. Sorry, continue.
no. Keep going. That's fine.
I really like that Soggy. Like she's just talking to the two detectives, and they're like, "You just made it up. You just made it." And she's like, uh, and they're like,
Yeah.
Are you okay? And she's not.
And it like shows her visualize herself getting hit again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I came to realize, oh, it's in their head.
And I also liked,
but
I also like the feel that she broke her own leg, because that's going pretty far. Like she takes a lead pipe and just
She doesn't realize that she broke her own leg. That's why they've all created this character in their head to do it for them.
Yeah.
And that character took on the same characteristics.
It's not that she didn't recognize that she broke her leg. It's that she didn't want to have to make a new character because she was coming up to the deadline and she was so overstressed with work, and she was like, I have to come up with a way out of it. So she takes the lead pipe and it's like, fuck it, and then creates Shunbat.
Yeah, but I don't think she actually realized she did that. At least not for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in their heads, but until the last 2 episodes.
Ignoring those, this show is actually like really well done piece where it was all in everyone's head. But
I will also say, if we go back to episode 5, the whole like weird video game-esque, you have to kill Goma, there's the ancient master or whatever. I thought that was just weird.
What I liked with that though is it showed that was a great characterization point for the 2 detectives, because the younger one is more he's the good cop. He's the one that's more in touch with
he's more open,
he's more empathetic, and so he was able to communicate with the kid much better, much easier than the older one.
Yeah, and then he went crazy.
In the end, I did like that. And you see like this like hooded or this masked figure, and then you find out like this masked crazy guy, and you find out that it's a detective. I think in episode 11 or so.
Though, in fairness, the show made it good that he was crazy, because his craziness is actually what saved the day. His delusions actually turned out to be fact, and I'm not really sure how that happened.
Yeah,
but we're not going back there. So instead, we're gonna go.
They had this old man that was like telling them the prophecy, and I was like, what? How is what? I don't understand.
The old man was technically calculating the answer to every episode of the first 2, at least, but
and then the young detective becomes the new prophet.
I want to keep going back. We're gonna keep going back since we started at the end and we've been going backwards so far. We're going to episode 3.
At that point, the detective was insane. So I mean, even if the point is they're both insane. So I mean, he can take whatever. He can take the old man as his prophet or whatever, and it still kind of makes sense. Except for the fact
that he was right.
Yeah, except for the last 2 episodes.
Also, the old man was the reason that the boy took credit for showing that, so it explained that too.
Yeah, he did tell him to do that, which was weird and a problem. But also, I just really want to talk about the characters from the first 3 episodes, specifically episode 3. I'd really like to talk about episode 3.
I really like episode 3.
Episode 3 was maybe the reason I gave characters a higher score than everything else. You got to see the actual delusions and paranoia and actual like mental illness of a woman just struggling to survive with a mental illness. I mean, it was more dramatic than what it actually is in life usually, but it was still her struggling to like live life as normally as she could, although at night she transformed essentially into a woman who hated her and also just wanted to be a prostitute and live life that way. And you kind of just saw those 2 sides of her clashing over and over, this weak-willed woman who just wanted to get married and this strong-willed prostitute who just wanted the other woman to die so that she could live her life the entire way because she technically wasn't real but wanted to be more than the actual woman did.
And so Satoshi Kon deals with duality, and I think in the first 4 episodes, 3 of the characters I thought was really cool that they introduced them. So you have the normal life of the character and the life that they also deal with, and so you meet the normal character and then their second life, and then through that second life you meet the normal life of the other character, and then the second life, and then through that person's second life the normal life of the next main character, and then
See,
like,
I liked that too. And then they stopped doing that,
Yeah.
which is the point at which the show entirely fell off for me. That's when it started to feel like filler. Everything got incoherent.
I think they
But
just
like, I
wanted
really
too much.
liked at the first 4 episodes, everything was connected, all the people were connected somehow, and then they were just like, actually, this is craziness.
Well, I mean, they still kind of did that with like episode 6, and well,
But
not
only episode 6.
And episode 10.
kind of 10, yeah. Like all the other episodes besides 8, because we already said that 8 was pretty much filler. All the other episodes sort of built off the fact that this is supposed to be like a satire of media, and they sort of built the world more rather than like introduced even more characters. And like I don't see, I think they stopped doing the episodic introduce a new main character and then have them introduce the next one, where they did. I think that was a good stopping point, or else it'd just get kind of repetitive and there wouldn't be a point to the show.
That's fair.
I mean, that's true. I definitely was actually happy that they stopped doing the episodic thing after a while, because I don't like purely episodic shows. However, they changed a bit drastically. Not immediately, actually. I wouldn't say it immediately went to crap. After episode 5, they stopped being episodic and start being, I don't know what that noise is.
To be fair, I don't know what the noise was either. But to be fair, I thought the middle was a lot more episodic than the first part was.
Yeah, the
Like-
first part I felt was pretty connected.
Yeah, me
Connecting,
too.
it was still person of the week. And then the middle bit dropped the person of the week, but kept some of the connections, I think. And then you got the random filler episodes. Then you got it kind of came back to person of the week for episode 6 and 10. But episode 10 was a lot less coherent than episode 6 was, I think.
Yeah, and
It's
at
fair to
that
say.
point, it was starting to get to the more insane parts of the series.
Yeah, and I think he tried to do that. And episode 11 was fantastic, because you're right. The fact that we couldn't see Shonen Bat through the door of her house, but you could see her talking to him. That was fantastically done, and it was her arguing with herself about suicide. It was just, he was just part of her head. But then reality and fiction kind of fused together into one. No.
All in all, I appreciate what they tried to do, but it ended up executed poorly. Some things were done really well, but overall, like especially the ending, it was just all over the place.
I would also like to point out that it was revealed that the policeman was not actually just wandering around in his own delusions. He was legitimately in an alternate universe.
Yeah, which
And
was
that
also
was-
really weird.
That was... I don't know how they did that, because... Because...
Remember, he started
because he was like-
smashing the
He's
buildings.
him smashing it could just be, like, whatever. Illusion.
Right.
Simile, whatever. Analogy, that's the word. But,
they were like basically cut
The fact-
off, right? Because he never ran into anything while he was
never
in that
ran
world.
into anyone. The only time somebody ever entered was because they went through a special magic door that Moromi led them through. And apparently they were allowed into a special world as a real person.
Okay, yeah.
That-
I kind of understood that as the older detective and the younger detective just like wanting to just push everything out of their minds, and them just like kind of together just kind of shutting down, whether that's like comatose or like whatever. But I yeah, with the last 2 episodes, I guess that theory's out of the water.
That theory breaks because the younger detective going crazy was what saved the older man. and the younger detective going crazy was what saved the world. And the younger detective going crazy was how they got the answers. And
I mean, to
The
be
last two
honest,
episodes
the
ruined
ending
everything.
didn't bother me that much. It didn't change. It didn't change my opinion of the series that much, because
but
like
did
at
it
that
change your
point,
interpretation?
not of everything pre-ending, not really. I just sort of ignored it.
Okay, well that's one way to cope.
I think we've been split into two groups here. The group who has completely ignored the ending in favor of trying to make sense of the rest of the show, and the group that cannot ignore the ending and has given up on the show entirely.
To be fair, I may be just biased because I didn't like it. Because I mean, through most of the show, I was like, when am I going to get to the ending? When is this going to make sense? And so the fact that it ended up not making sense at the end, that did a lot for me because I was expecting it, I was looking forward to it, and it didn't happen. So it affected my interpretation and my score of it a lot.
I don't want to deal with the end. Shonen Battle, come save me.
Oh God. All right, you guys are about to witness a murder on the screen. We apologize. Oh wait, no, you won't because no, you actually will witness a real life murder because apparently it's all real.
Oh my gosh!
Just
If only you had a
appear
bat.
all of us.
Just appear live. I just want to talk about one more thing, I think, before we go to final thoughts and ratings. And that last thing would be not related to the end. Well, maybe related to the end. We haven't actually talked about Ichi at all. Or
Oh,
his storyline
episode
at
2.
all.
Yeah.
And I would like to point out
The episode 10 guy?
no, the episode 2
No,
guy,
episode 2.
the little kid.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I know the point they
like-
were making was that Shonen Bat comes out of nowhere to save you from your problem. Literally, his entire problem was the fact that Shonen Bat existed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, his life was great.
Like the entire second half of that episode, I was always thinking, wouldn't you just want him to hit you so you could get out of it? Like, if Shonen Bat hit him, then he would be clear of all suspicion, right?
And that ended up happening.
Yeah.
Real Shonen
But-
Bat hit him, while
like-
fake Shonen Bat hit his enemy friend thing.
Like,
That kid.
especially when he was fake Shonen Bat was about to hit his friend. Like he was thinking, I just want Shonen Bat to hit him, not me, him, and that will magically save me from suspicion.
Okay, but that was part of. I mean, I'd say
The
it
idea was to
less
catch
like-
Shonen Bat, though.
I think it was less like save him from suspicion, and it was more just like delving into his mind because he developed this hatred for this kid. I feel like that was kind of the point of like, I want him dead. I hate him.
I mean, yeah.
It was that he became popular because Edie wasn't, and so he was like, "Fuck him, someone kill him, please, please."
Yeah, I understood that, and like I knew that, but still, that line of thought was just wrong.
On top of that, he thought that he could catch Shonen Bat if he attacked the kid beside him, and that way he would venerate his own name by catching Shonen Bat, and also he'd be rid of this kid and a thorn in his side, and life would just be perfect. He's a 6th grader, in fairness.
Showed that he wasn't very rational, and also in fairness, he is a 6th grader, so he can't be that rational. So like he sees himself as being able to be a hero, which obviously, how many heroes are there really? But he's just 6th grade, and so what he wants to do is catch Shonen Bat after he attacks that kid.
I think my only other note on him was this kid has more ambition than I do.
Yes.
Just because that was like straight politics levels of wanting things, and he was in 6th grade, and I feel a little bit bad about myself. I won't lie. That is a lot of goals for a 6th grader.
He also like never came back. I think he was the only character that like didn't come back.
He was mentioned. He was mentioned.
He came back as He came back as many times as Chono did.
Really?
You saw him. Yeah, you saw him with his mom. And Chono didn't really ever come back either, except for weirdly at the last 2 episodes when she was Maria for like 10 seconds and then wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
But
All right. Excuse me.
no, he came back exactly as much as she did, which is to say, not very often. You're right.
Okay.
But I don't think many of the victims actually came back and mattered. I think the only one that came back a lot was the girl in the stripes, and I think that was literally just because the most disturbing thing in the show was her amnesia face, and they just wanted to keep bringing that back.
That was really
I don't know.
creepy.
I think I got to a point in the show where I was just thinking, this is what the director wanted. This is what the director wanted, and I wasn't thinking, ah, yes, these characters are driven this way because of. At some point I stopped thinking that the characters were driven for something and decided that the show was only going somewhere because they needed it to go somewhere.
Yeah, because as far
that
as like
disappointed
I'm
me.
concerned, this is a story-driven show, not a character-driven show. In which
But
case
all
the
shows-
characters add to the story rather than the story adding to the characters.
But in a show where all of the problems were caused by the characters, you'd think the characters' actions would have more of an impact on the show,
Well,
or their desires or something.
I mean, they did, in as far as like story goes.
I think we could argue this point all day, but we are hitting the end of our
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts and ratings.
Switching to that.
Was a 6 because although I have problems with the ending, and I think you guys have heard my plethora of problems, I still have a lot more here. I just didn't want to spend all hours talking about the ending. I could do this for days. I think the rest of the show, if you take out episodes 12 and 13, was actually a pretty okay view. I liked the themes it was showing off. I liked the ideas it was putting out. I liked how they established most of the things. I would have put it at a little bit above average even then, maybe a 7.5 at the last two. I thought that the characters in show established something and told a story, and sure, some of it was a little bit forced, some of it was a little bit unnecessary. But at the end of the day, it made a good bit of sense. Unfortunately, I cannot ignore those last 2 episodes. I tried not to let them impact my score too much, but they kind of ruined the entirety of the show for me. And with that in mind, I have to give the show a 6 because giving it above a 5 was still generous, and anything more than that felt harsh. It felt too cheap. I couldn't do it.
Okay. Well, I still enjoyed it, and maybe I had a certain mindset starting it because I had just watched another crazy show. We're not going to review it because I would be too biased because I saw another review and that's what caused me to watch the show. Alien 9, if you guys know that. Alien 9, crazy. But so coming from that and into this, I was still in the psychological. I was ready for it, so I liked it. The last 2 episodes, obviously, I guess I didn't pay too much attention to. So I'm going to say 8 was my final score, but yeah.
So we all are on the same wavelength, saying that the last 2 episodes were bad. We all agree episode 8 was filler, and I think most of what was going on in episode 9 was filler. That's 4 episodes out of a 13 episode show. That's a lot. So, with that in mind, I gave this show a 4. With 5 being an average, and I've seen much better psychological, I feel like this was below average. It didn't make the cut for me. Just a lot of it was not good. There were 4 whole episodes that were just So I give it a 4 overall.
All right. And I gave it a 7. The ending does matter, so I would give it higher. But of course, the ending is kind of eh. Really, I thought that the last episode was the problem more than the last 2. but I'm just gonna go with the last two. Anyway, so as far as episode count, I thought 8 was filler and 13 was not good. So take that as you will, but I gave it a 7. Would be higher if 12 didn't or 13 didn't exist.
I think the moral of the story is when you feel like you need to end something excitingly, stop, think about it a little bit, and then don't. So on that note, next week's anime is going to be, or I guess week after next, I do have to remember to say that every single time. Probably not. Is going to be Rainbow, Nisha Rakobu no Shichinin, and I don't know what any of that means, but I do know the word rainbow. It's going
That was the correct pronunciation, how they say it every single time in Japan.
I'm not even gonna do the rainbow thing. I'm choosing to not screw myself here. So
Reading Rainbow.
Yep, that's the show we're watching, Reading Rainbow, recommended by Steven. Steven, would you like to tell us why you've chosen the reading show?
Okay, were you gonna read a synopsis of it, or?
I was actually expecting you to just explain it. Do you want me to read a synopsis?
No, I've got it. So, it's basically a group of kids. It takes place during World War II, and then also during American occupation of Japan after World War II. So, there's this group of boys that's sent to a reform prison. They're like young boys are sent to a reform prison, and it's just hell. It's hell on earth. And basically their entire lives are just hell on earth. It follows them through the prison, and then it follows their lives afterwards. It follows them growing up. And the show is just, I'd say, powerful. Like, it's the most, like, bro-ship heavy show I've ever seen. And it made me feel in a very different way than a lot of shows have made me feel before. It was powerful. It followed these people from, like, childhood to adulthood the entire way, and it was just great.
So is that a drama then?
It's a drama, yes.
Excited.
All right, so that's our, at least one person's, I think, recommendation of Rainbow. We'll find out if the rest of us agree with them next week. Spoiler warning, it seems that Steven's seen this one, but
I have. It's very underrated. Like, I watched it on YouTube when it was still free on Funimation's channel. It's since been taken off of that and taken off of their site, and nobody knows about it. So
still watch it legally.
Yeah.
Somehow. We believe in you. If you're in America, it's probably on Hulu or something. If you're not in America, find a different way to watch it legally.
I have an announcement to make. Okay, because I'm a big nerd and a big Love Live fan, the Love Live movie Blu-rays are coming out tomorrow. Order yours now.
I'll give you guys one guess as to what Allan's next review is going to be.
Oh, you're just gonna sink down now.
It's okay. At least it's.
All right.
I can't think of much.
No, not much to say, but don't forget, guys, we're going to review this very soon. So, it's going to be fantastic. On that note,
We have a call.
No, I'm not a sellout. No one's paying me. And with
call
that,
from Dark Cell.
I think we're done.
All right.
On that
See
note,
you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
we'll see you guys next time with Rainbow.